All right, here we go. It is a brand new Flyers Daily. Oh, it's Friday the 13th. I didn't even realize that until just now. Hey, happy Friday the 13th to everybody. Flyers Daily, as always, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Flyers coming off a 4-1 win over the Detroit Red Wings. It was Scott Laughton night at Wells Fargo Center because he scored all 4 Flyer goals. And the Flyers have not had a player score 4 goals since the 2002-2003 season when Gianni Leclaire did it. Flyers haven't had a ton of them throughout their history. I think there's been now 17, including Laughton. Tim Kerr did it 3 times. Rick McLeish did it a couple of times. But 4-goal games are a rarity. Surprised Lindros only did it once. Kevin Dineen's on the list. Rick Tocchet has got a 4-goal game. John Leclaire, a couple of them. But just an outstanding performance from Scott Laughton. And I think that the first goal that he scores in this game on the breakaway is the catalyst for why they win the game. We'll get into that in a moment. Flyers outshoot Detroit in the game 36-26. Really kind of sleepy performance for Alexei Kolosov, who's now the number 2 goaltender, as deemed by Flyers head coach John Tortorella. Erson's the starter. He's the number 1. Kolosov's number 2. Fedotov is number 3. And those games sometimes are tough for goalies to stay sharp mentally when you're not getting to feel the puck, not getting to make saves. There really wasn't even a lot of zone time through 2 periods of play for Detroit. But Alexei Kolosov, that showed me something. That's staying in there mentally is not easy. And he stayed in there mentally. And in that last half of the third period, had to make some unbelievably huge saves. So really good performance from Alexei Kolosov. He makes 25 saves on 26 shots. And frankly, the goal that he gave up, he had no chance on. It was deflected off a Flyer stick up high and screened. And that's how Detroit would get their only goal of the game. But let's get to the highlights. 13-22 into the second period. Now, the first period ended. I think the Flyers outshot them 11-6 or 11-7, something like that. It was kind of a sleepy first period, pretty low event. And I remember doing the intermission with Brian Smith at the first intermission, and I was pondering the thought, like, where's this game going? I just had no feel for it. Flyers had some good opportunities. Cam Talbot made some good saves in the first period. Kolosov made a couple of nice saves, but it really wasn't that compelling a period of hockey. And you just kind of wonder, okay, where's this going? After the Columbus game when they were up 5-1 and ended up being 5-3, where's this game going to turn? Who's going to kind of grab this game? Is it going to be Lucas Raymond or Dylan Larkin or Patrick Kane or DeBrincat for Detroit? Or is it going to be Matvei Mishkov, which we're pretty darn used to, Travis Konechny, Travis Sanheim? It ends up being Scott Laughton. He gets a breakaway. First, there was just an errant backhand pass in the offensive zone from a Detroit player to a left point man that wasn't on the left. He was nowhere to be found. That's why the blind backhand pass will drive a coach crazy. And it just sends Scott Laughton in on a breakaway. And after Cam Talbot made several unbelievable saves, stopped Couturier on a breakaway, stopped Farabee on a breakaway, robbed Mishkov. I mean, really high-end saves, and he was playing unbelievably well. Scott Laughton goes in and just decides, I'm not going to try and deke him. I'm not trying to get cute. I'm just going to try and blow it by him. And he loads up a clapper from just inside the bottom of the circle and just overpowers Talbot. Bar down, off the crossbar and in. Perfect shot. And that opened the scoring. Unassisted goal for Scott Laughton, his 4th of the season. And that puts the Flyers up 1-0. So we head to the second period. Flyers with this slimmest of leads going into the third. And we know what the last week has entailed. Flyers had a 5-4 lead against Florida in the third period. Didn't get the 2 points. Went to Boston. We're up 3-1 going into the third period. Didn't get the 2 points. Lost to Utah 4-2, fair play. And then we know what happened on Tuesday when they beat Columbus. But would they be able to hold this 1-goal lead? And how are they going to go about attacking the third period? And I talked to Travis Sanheim between the second and third period for the radio and said, is the best way to protect this lead to build on it and keep attacking? And he said, absolutely. And that's what they did. 131 into the third. They're on the PK. The PK hasn't been particularly great of late. They only had one shorthanded goal coming in to this point, to game 30. Last year at this time, I think they had 7. So it hasn't been the power kill. But Scott Laughton, after Travis Sanheim goes down to block a shot in the high slot, just below the top of the circle, gets down, gets one knee down, blocks the shot perfectly, and it goes to Travis Konechny, who's off to the races along with Scott Laughton. We know those two will go when they see an opportunity on the penalty kill. They get up on the 2-on-1. Konechny delivers a perfect pass. Laughton puts it in. Shorthanded goal. Flyers go up 2-0. Sanheim and Konechny with the assist, and Flyers in a good spot. In the game, still good chances, and in the second half of the third period, Detroit really started to gain some footing and create some really good scoring opportunities. And eventually, at 16:07, they got to make it difficult. Like, we can't just ease our way to, all right, a nice 3-0 or 3-1 win and no tension. Now, Ben Sherratt scores his first of the season to make it 2-1. And that's, again, that deflected goal that the Detroit Red Wings get, and they're finally able to solve Alexei Kolosov. Then, like, the shift after that, they are buzzing Detroit. They got blood in the water. They're going, we're going to get this thing tied. And there was a great opportunity, I think it was maybe on Tarasenko, where Kolosov's got to come from his right to his left. Full value, a lot of distance traveled, and he makes an unbelievable glove save to keep it a 2-1 game. It's a huge situational save. And Flyers, eventually, even though Detroit was pressing and getting good opportunities, Kolosov stood tall. And eventually at 18:53, they had to pull the goaltender, Cam Talbot, Laughton into the empty net from Noah Cates and Travis Konechny. That made it 3-1. And then at 19:47, the rarity happens when Laughton gets a second empty net goal to make it 4-1, and that's your scoring. It's the first time in Flyers history they've had a guy score 4 goals, and he was the only goal scorer on their team. There's been times when they've had a player score 4 goals, but they scored 5, so another player on the team got a goal. Hathaway with the assist, by the way, on Laughton's second empty netter, his 4th of the game, 7th of the season. To say Scott Laughton is good against Detroit, well, he'd like to play Detroit every night. The highest success rate for any team that he plays is Detroit. Just wish he played him more. We don't see Detroit a ton. He's now played 20 games against Detroit. He's got 13 goals and 6 assists for 13 and 6, 19 points. That's a team. He's basically a point per game player against them. He's got now 12 goals in his last 11 games against Detroit. Bananas numbers. So great on Scott Laughton. And going back to his first goal, and when he scores on the slap shot after everybody is getting stoned and robbed by Cam Talbot, and he goes in and bombs that slap shot. And you could see how excited he was to score that way. And as he goes through the high five line along the bench, he's got the elbow out and he got a big grin on his face. And I think that gave the entire team energy. He's an incredibly well-liked teammate, great team guy. And when one of those guys pulls you in that direction, everybody goes with it. So good on Scott Laughton. And that was a lot of fun to watch, and not something you see every night, especially in a game that was scoreless after 1, and you're kind of wondering where it's going. So good performance out of Scott Laughton. And I thought one of the other things that stuck out in the game was the even distribution of the minutes. By the way, Laughton had 9 shots on goal too. What an animal. But the highest time on ice forward was Travis Konechny at 2018. And they really kind of rolled the 4 lines in this game. And on D, leading the way once again, as always, is Travis Sanheim with 22:06, but really even distribution of the blue line minutes as well. Igor Zamola came back in. He had 18:09 in the game. You look, Cam York, 21:01. Sealer, 7 seconds under 20 minutes. Ristolainen, 21:04. Drysdale had 16:02, but really even distribution. And again, Kolosov with 25 saves on 26 shots. Ho-hum, a .962 save percentage for him in the game as well. Now, Jamie Drysdale, I guess that's his 3rd game back. And being out injured and not in the lineup allows a player to maybe have a reset, kind of look at things a little bit differently. Not available to come in and play, but Drysdale has come back, and I thought he looked really sharp again last night. The first game, I thought there was a little rust in the beginning. He played decently, played pretty well. And then the game on Tuesday, I thought was his best game as a Flyer, and it's not close. And I thought he was good again last night, decisive again. So I had a chance to catch up with Jamie Drysdale after the win, and here's that conversation. Flyers post game after a win, the Scott Laughton show over the Red Wings. That was fun. Seeing a guy pile up 4 in one game is always fun.
Oh, there's not a guy you want to see in that position more than Lottie. You know, he's an unbelievable guy. Works his butt off, and you know, it's just you can't get a better teammate in the locker room. So everyone's going to be really fired up for him.
As Cam Talbot's making save after save, playing unbelievably, he goes in on that breakaway and just loads up a clapper. And I know that'll lift up a bench, and it seemed to with the elbows going down.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we couldn't seem to solve him. So I think Lotch just decided to take a slap shot on a breakaway, and you know, it definitely got the boys fired up for sure.
A bit unconventional, but the real thing, my takeaway is that you guys just stuck with it. You stuck with your game through 3 periods. Is that what you guys kind of talked about heading into the third?
Yeah, I think even after the end of the first, you know, Torts came in and he said this is a game that could go either way. You know, there's chances on both ends, and it's going to be who you know, who wants to run away with it kind of thing. And you know, I think we stuck with it, did a good job, and obviously Lots kind of, you know, took it on his own, and TK we made a couple huge plays. So yeah, nice to get that win.
It's great because you guys need to establish that home ice thing. First of all, how are you feeling since coming back? You look great.
Yeah, I feel really good. I think you know, it was a good learning kind of experience when I was out. You know, just stayed on top of it, talked with people around the organization, just things that I can do to kind of elevate my game. And it was all kind of a similar message across the board. So that's kind of just what I'm trying to do.
Not that you played poorly before, but does it give you a chance for a little reset in the season? Sometimes a mental reset can be really beneficial.
100%. You know, you never want to be out of the lineup, but I think it's important that when you are, you kind of make the most of it. And that's across the board. You know, coaches staying in your ear, you know, skilled coaches, development guys, you know, just taking what you can, seeing the guys. You know, the guys were playing unbelievable when I was out. Kind of really turned the page and started racking up the points. So, you know, you learn a lot, and yeah, it's good to be back.
Jamie, it's great to see you back. Go enjoy this win with your teammates. Get back at it on Saturday. Thanks for doing it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good to see Jamie Drysdale back out there. I mean, you watch the guy skate. It's so effortless. You can see why he was so well touted going into his draft. The skating ability is just so good, and the ability to open up his body and move laterally while skating with good speed is something that is a treat to watch. Very good skater. So thanks to Jamie Drysdale for stopping by Flyers Daily and joining us after the win. Flyers will be back at it Saturday. That'll be the kind of wrap on the week. It's not a tremendously busy week. Winning Columbus 2 points in regulation. Win last night 4-1 over Detroit in regulation. These regulation wins are important. Saturday, it's a revenge game against the Minnesota Wild, the top team in the Central Division. Flyers beat them 7-5 at Wells Fargo Center when Sean Couturier had that 5-point night. That was all the way back. It seems like an eternity ago. That was all the way back in, I don't see it on my schedule. It was a while ago for Minnesota. So Flyers will try and sweep the season series against the Minnesota Wild. Why do I not see this? Oh, there it is. It's October 26th. It is on my schedule. So Flyers will try and get that series win coming up 2:00 on Saturday afternoon. So where are we? You know, we have these little mileposts along in a season that we kind of look at and go, okay, where are they compared to the year before? Is this team making progress? Are they standing still? Are they regressing? We do these for individual players, and maybe we'll do that with Bill on Monday. But through 30 games now, as the Flyers grabbed the 2 points last night. Now, these aren't even because not all of these teams have played the same amount of games, but with the 2 points last night, the Flyers moved their record to 14-12-4, 32 points, 6-2-2 in their last 10, won their last 2, -10 in goal differential. They're a point up on the Rangers, but the Rangers have 2 games in hand. There are 2 points up on the Lightning, but the Lightning have 4 games in hand. That's pretty crazy. But right now they're sitting in wild card number 2. You don't want to chase the standings. Get yourself in position and then maintain that. We'll see if they can do that. So through 30 games, they're wild card number 1 right now and in a decent position. But they're actually in a better position at this time last year. Again, 14-12-4 this season through 30. Last year through 30 games, they were 17-10-3. I didn't recall. They went on a run, I know, after the San Jose loss last year. But 17-10-3. Through 30 games last year, they averaged exactly 3 goals a game. 90 goals. This year, through 30 games, 88 goals. So they're 2 less than they scored last year. But this year, on the power play, they have 15 goals. Last year, they had 10. 10 goals on 95 chances. This year, they have 15 on less chances at 86. Now, they have given up more goals this year. We've seen some pretty lopsided scores in some of the games early on this year. Last year, through 30 games, they gave up 79 goals. And this year, through 30 games, they've given up 101, 3.01 goals per game. They got to get that down and keep it down. With Harrison healthy now, and maybe they'll send Fedotov down and run the 2-goalie system of Harrison as the 1, Kolosov as the 2. If you can get that good goaltending and continue this good D-zone structure, then there's no reason why they can't get that number down. Now, they did have 7 shorthanded goals last year in their first 30. Now they only have 2 through the first 30 this year. But is that progress? Now, the record's not as good. They're down points compared to where they were last year. They're down 3 wins in regulation. So the record is not a step forward. But I wonder if people agree with this. When you watch this team versus the team last year, I thought they got bailed out by their goaltending in the early part of last year. Carter was really good, Carter Hart, and Sam Ersson was as well. And it felt like they got bailed out a lot by goaltending. This year looks like they are better structurally, especially in the D zone. And even though they didn't start out great with their transition game, that has come a long way. Clearly, the power play's improved. It's not great, but it's improved. Penalty kill's not as good, but it's not killing you. So is it progress from the first 30 last year to the first 30 this year? I will tell you, my feeling is it feels like progress. I mean, obviously, you add a player like Mishkov, who's basically been a point-per-game player, helps the power play, and just does a lot of things out there, changes your slotting up front. It feels like progress to me. I feel like right now this team is a better team than it was last year through the first 30 games. And I'm not taking into consideration how the season ended last year, because I'd have to also take into consideration how it started this year. I am taking that. But this team, I think, is better structurally in their D zone. Maybe not quite as good yet in transition, but overall, they're a better team. They look deeper. Now that they have found these 4 combinations of lines with Couturier, Konechny, and Farabee, then Frost, Mishkov, and Tippett. And then that third line with Brink, Forster, and Noah Cates. And then the fourth line with Paling, Laughton, and Hathaway. That feels better than what they had last year. That feels like progress. I feel better going to war with that every night than I do with what they went to war with every night in the first 30 last year. Then you couple that with the blue line. And while Sanheim was good in the first 30 last year, he's been great in the first 30 this year. I thought Cam York was awesome last night, too, by the way. It was an understated game. He defended great. His stick was on point, checking with his stick, making great decisions. I thought Cam York was very good. And then, obviously, Nick Seeler on that second pair playing with Jamie Drysdale. And even though Andre wasn't in the lineup, and he's been a huge element of why this team has succeeded so far this year, with Zamula in there last night and playing with Ristolainen. And Ristolainen's been great. I thought he was really good last night, too. So this team, are they as strong in net as they were last year through 30? Probably not. I wouldn't go there yet. But this does feel like a step forward for this Flyers team. Now, they gotta get consistent. They got to get better at home. Yeah, they won at home last night. But you got to be a team that's more difficult to play at home. I mean, their record at home this year is 7-8-1, 7-4-3 on the road. You know, you look at the top teams, the Leafs are 13-4 at home. The Caps are 8-4-2 at home. Carolina Hurricanes are 11-3 at home. Flyers are under 500 at home. None of the other playoff teams are under 500 at home. Rangers are 7-7-1. So got to be better at home, and that's got to be consistent. Now, they'll be on the road Saturday against Minnesota, and then they'll start off next week. Things are going to get a little bit more disjointed as we get really close to the holiday. The Flyers will be Minnesota Saturday at 2. At Detroit, we'll see Detroit again. coming up on Wednesday. And then there's a back-to-back. They'll come back home. They'll take on the Los Angeles Kings on the 19th. And then they'll host Columbus as well. So back-to-back home games before going to Pittsburgh a couple of days before Christmas on the 23rd. Then they'll come home for the holiday. Then they'll go out west, Disney on Ice trip like they do every year. And they'll go to Anaheim, the Kings, San Jose, Vegas, Toronto. It's going to be a tough road trip. Anaheim's playing a little bit better. Kings are a good team. San Jose, not very good, but improved. Vegas, obviously good in Vegas. And then Toronto, top team in the Atlantic Division with a record of 18-9-2 in back-to-backs, one on the road and then one at home. So important stretch coming up. But I feel like this team has progressed, even though the record doesn't indicate that. Now, in sports, ultimately, the only thing that matters is the record. We'll see if they can surpass last year's by the end of the calendar year 2024. We'll see if that can happen. All right. Bill will join us on Monday. Bill Meltzer will be on Mondays with Meltzer. We got a lot of cool stuff planned for next week. So join us then on a whole new week of Flyers Daily.